your motions can make the confidence rain. Yet in all your might and glory, banished from the skies, it's just another story. It's man-made lies. They tell of how you fell from the sky, your once proud beauty of grace.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Free American Hour. I'm your host, Clay Douglas. And I want to talk to you about, well, same thing I've been talking to you about 20 years. I've been trying to predict, I've been trying to tell you, analyze what's happening, how that fits in with what we know is the plan for one world government. And that's been around longer than you've been around. The sun never sets on the English Empire. The English Empire is the crown. The crown controls the Vatican, the three cities, the Vatican, the crown, the city of London, where the financial districts are. And, of course, Washington, D.C. We got three cities that have been controlling pretty much the world. Between the Pope and the Queen. And we were supposed to get out of that. We were supposed to leave the empire on which the sun never sets. We were supposed to do that. And our founding fathers, some of the most brilliant men in history. But, you know what? They were just men like us. Just men like us. And they saw what was happening. They saw the tyranny that was happening. They saw what the plan was for colonization of Americans, and to keep all Americans working for them for slaves. And if we, and they operated pretty much like they operate now. In Vietnam, they sent us over to bomb farms. Why? Why would we bomb farmers? For the same reason they've been attacking farmers here for 100 years. Anytime a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first. They go after the intelligentsia next, and they go after that's anybody out there. That doesn't mean college professor. That means anybody out there that's smart enough to know what the hell they're doing to you. And third, they go after the veterans and the police officers that are still loyal to the old regime. In our case, our founding fathers stood up against the empire, set us free, gave us a list of rules. We call it our Bill of Rights. Gave us the controls over the government. And America was born. Or as Benjamin Franklin said, when asked, what form of government have you wrought for us, Mr. Franklin? A constitutional republic, ma'am, if you can keep it. Because your controllers, your masters, the people that own you since Roosevelt sold you out, and March 8, 1933, you became collateral. The bankers own you. New Deal Social Security number, the bankers own you. Oh, hi, Mr. Douglas, you're on Social Security. We're taking an extra $150 out to cover your Medicare. Well, I haven't been to a doctor in 6 fucking months, so what, exactly what am I paying for here? $150 a month? For something I don't need or don't want? This is a form of tyranny. Now, the farmers, why were we bombing the farmers? For the same reason we went after the farmers. Under Prohibition? Under Prohibition, we went after the farmers. They were all running their tractors and their Model A's on alcohol. We made it illegal to bring out, to make alcohol. And suddenly, there's a whole generation that was turned into somewhat heroes. Somewhat heroes. Yeah, they were called bootleggers, moonshiners. And they kept making their alcohol. They kept selling it. They kept running their Model A's and Model T's until, of course, Rockefeller stepped in. And after Prohibition, folks, there was a Standard Oil station on every corner in America. John D. Rockefeller, competition is a sin. And they did the same thing in the 30s, folks. Once again, they went after the farmers. The number one craze. Now, this kind of started out, why were they bombing farmers in Vietnam? Because they don't want you to be able to feed yourself. They would prefer to feed you genetically modified crap. Oh, they're spraying that, they got to spray that aluminum up there. It's going to drift down into your water and get on all your food. But it's okay. It's okay. You won't go hungry. Monsanto is here to save you. And we're going to make crops with there's aluminum resistance, which means we're already going to have aluminum in the crops in excess. And so that's going to, that'll save you. You'll live a little bit longer, maybe. Now I just did a show, a film clip from a film that Anthony Hilder's making. He came here to talk to me and sat right over here and filmed me. That's right down below you if you're on Blog TV. That's right down below. If you're not, it's up on my website, freeamerican.com. And we talked about the chemtrails. Now, what they're doing, folks, really is, we are today, we're the Jews in Germany. We've been demonized. They're trying to make patriots. They're trying to make sovereign citizens. Anybody that wants to be free, they're trying to make into the bad guys. And a lot of innocent Jews got persecuted down there in Germany, simply because the Bernie Madoffs in there that have been ripping off the German people, the Jacob Schiffs that finance the communist Judaism revolution in Russia and murdered over 50 million white Russians. What they're planning to do to the American people, we're the Palestinians, we're the Jews of today. We are anybody that believes in the Constitution, you're being demonized and made into the bad guy. Oh, see, this is the problem. We got a perfect little socialist world going here, and these guys are rebels. We need to confiscate all their property. We need to charge them with crimes. And they took after, when they banned hemp, folks, when they banned hemp in this country, the same way they banned alcohol in this country, and suddenly they made you into a criminal if you're smoking a joint. Excuse me, folks. That is a police state. That is tyranny. What you got in your pocket there, son? Whoa, that looks like that could be cocaine. That could be heroin. Oh, come with us. Come with us. Oh boy, you're gonna do some time, man. And they were doing that. They were booking people for vagrancy back in the 30s. When they're just trying to find work, just trying to stay alive, just trying to eat. And now they are making all of you into criminals. I said they went up against the veterans. Here's what you need to know. The Oathkeepers are coming here to Tucson. Memorial Day. What a fitting day for us to take back this country. And if you're anywhere in the area, I suggest you stay in tune with my website. I'll bring you up more. You know, it's happened so much over the past. Randy Weaver, Gordon Kahl, Ed Brown. People have been taken out and taken out and taken out. Now it's getting more violent. Jerry and Joe Kane. I covered that story for 6 months. 6 months ago, I started covering that story. I had his wife in. I covered this story, and I covered it from her side too. She didn't agree with the propaganda film that Southern Poverty Law put out. And this was after Southern Poverty Law, along with the FBI, had gone over after Edgar Steele, tried to set him up, stole all of his money, all of his silver, all of his reserves, and put him in jail. Then they murdered Jerry Kane. They shot him more times than they shot Bonnie and Clyde, him and his son, because they were accused of shooting a cop. They could have been set up for this, and his wife thinks they were set up for it. The question is who. But they were murdered. And then 60 Minutes last week, and I've got all of this is up on freeamerican.com. That's it's all up there. We put up the Southern Poverty Law film, compare that to the 60-minute film, and see where they got their material. The Southern Poverty Law and the ADL are both well-funded organizations to do nothing but raise funds to attack people like me, like Edgar Steele, like Jerry Kane. And it just, it differs a little bit. With me, it was an attack on me. With me, it was set up to look like an accident. I ride a motorcycle, so it was easy to stage an accident, especially when they were tapping my phones. So I've gone through the same things. I've witnessed everything. We are putting the wrong people in prison. And that's what it really boils down to. You know, we just interrupted. This information came in that Israel's borders erupted in deadly clashes on Sunday as thousands of Palestinians marching from Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, and the West Bank confronted Israeli troops to mark the anniversary of Israel's creation. More than a dozen people were reported killed and scores injured. With an unprecedented wave of coordinated protesting, the popular uprisings have swept the region, touched Israel directly for the first time. Like other protests, this was spread over social media, including Facebook. There were also signs of official support in Lebanon and Syria, where enlisted leaders were using the Palestinian cause to deflect attention from internal problems. My ass. At the Lebanese border, Israeli troops shot at hundreds of Palestinians trying to force their way across. The Lebanese military said 10 protesters were killed, more than 100 wounded, and Israel said it was investigating the casualties. That's like asking Silverstein to handle the investigation of the bombs in the basement and the lobbies of the Twin Towers, or explain why there were only 3,000 people in the towers at the time. What happened to the 10,000 employees that were usually there? Oh yeah, oh there you go. The information came streaming across my computer, interrupting, diverting, and expanding the flow of thoughts rushing into my consciousness as I devoured well-written words by various writers all over the world. I was stunned at the thought of my friend and regular guest, Edgar Steele, spending the rest of his life in prison because a judge denied him a 3-day delay to fly expert witnesses who would have provided testimony in tampering. So we got Palestinian protesters mowed down in Israel, Lebanon. Wars expanded from Iraq and Afghanistan into Pakistan. Our alliance via John McCain with Al-Qaeda in Libya is really the confirmation that it has always been Al-CIA, duh, and our troops in Afghanistan are in total control of the #1 source of heroin in the world. Damn those Taliban. We were doing fine until they started to destroy the poppies, forced us to intervene. Gaddafi turned into a do-gooder too, with that underground river he built without IMF money. Mainstream media covered none of this. But I saw. But CBS and 60 Minutes came close, chose to deal with the subject I'd written about in detail, the death and demonization of Jerry and Joe Kane. The story appeared in Veterans Today, but 60 Minutes asked none of the questions raised by Jerry Kane's wife, Donna. Instead, they featured the West Memphis police chief whose son was supposedly killed by sovereign citizens, a dangerous breed of violent misfits, conspiracy theorists, domestic terrorists, and paper terrorists, filing liens against city, county, and state officials. You know, it's what I've said here is that for the last 20 years, I've been dealing with a conundrum. What do you do when you are a law-abiding citizen, brought up to believe in truth and justice in the American way, and you come to realize that something is not right and the avenues to seek a redress of your grievances are not open to you or are rigged? Like when our laws, Congress, and the courts are not there for your protection. Now, we've got Oathkeepers. Another incident has happened. Another incident has happened here, and the Oathkeepers, who I have always supported and always been pretty much a part of, because I've been telling you for years, a young Iraqi veteran. Now remember what I told you. Farmers first. Okay, hemp, more on alcohol, all things to benefit the oil industry. Nylon and rayon. Oil. Made out of oil. Now they're going after the veterans. On May 5th, 2011, a young 26-year-old Marine veteran who had survived 2 tours in Iraq, a father of 2, Jose Guerrero, was killed by a SWAT team raid in Tucson, Arizona, at approximately 9:30 a.m., 2 hours after he hit the Iraq after working a 12-hour graveyard shift in an Arizona mine. His wife woke him by yelling that there were men in the yard with guns. She had seen a man outside the window pointing a gun at her. He told her to take their 4-year-old son and hide in a closet, grabbed his AR-15 and stepped out into the hallway of his home just as his front door was battered in. He died with his safety still on. He didn't fire a shot. The Pima County, Arizona Sheriff Dupnik's department SWAT team. This is the same Sheriff Dupnik that tried to demonize talk show hosts like me when we were talking about Lowry or Longner and Gifford's shooting and everything else. The SWAT team fired 71 rounds at him and hit him with approximately 60 rounds. He had no criminal record. The only justification given by the sheriff's spokesman was for using SWAT to serve the warrant, that it was a search warrant in a narcotics conspiracy investigation with 3 other homes searched in the same neighborhood. And this is their policy: when the homeowner may be armed. Folks, this is what's happening here. Let me just play a clip very quickly for you.
End quote. You see, only judges are wise enough to know that when the Fourth Amendment says you have a right to be free from, quote, unreasonable search and seizure, end quote, it actually means that the cops have the right to commit unreasonable search and seizure, and you have no right to do anything to stop it. It is an essential major step towards totalitarianism for the control freaks to decide that even when they break their own laws, their victims have no right to resist. There is a huge principle at stake here. And what these 3 Indiana jackass judges have just done is guarantee either complete totalitarianism or a bloody revolution, or both in that order. Because this ruling means quite literally that residents of Indiana have no rights at all. What would it possibly mean to say you have a right to not have your home illegally invaded by a jackbooted thug, while also saying that you cannot do anything to defend that right. To say that you are legally required to allow your rights to be violated means that they aren't rights. But never fear, because according to the Supreme Jackass Court of Indiana, you can always come crawling to your masters after you've been illegally victimized by one of their jackboots to beg for some restitution. Good luck with that, by the way.
Yeah, that happened in Indiana. They ruled that you don't have the right. And here in Tucson, it's obviously the policy of using SWAT to serve mere search warrants on people with no violent criminal history will lead to more deaths of veterans and other trained American gun owners, because a trained man will react precisely the same way this young Marine did. Oathkeepers is saying we must take a stand on this use of SWAT against gun owners and veterans who have no violent crime history, and that stand needs to be a firm one. Therefore, we're going to rally in Tucson this coming Memorial Day, May 30th, 2011, to honor this young Marine service and to express our opposition to the destruction of our liberty and our opposition to this policy of using SWAT teams to serve mere search warrants on gun owners and veterans who have no violent criminal record. We don't know yet the exact details of precisely where we'll meet. It'll be on freeamerican.com whenever it comes out. They're working on the details, and this will depend on Jose's family's wishes and other variables. But at a minimum, we will conduct a solemn march and a memorial for this young Marine, Jose Guarana, to be followed by a formal gathering of remembrance for all our war dead and patriotic speeches by liberty leaders, patriotic officers, and veterans. We're seeking permission of the family to hold a memorial ceremony at Jose Guarana's grave, present his wife with an award of valor for him from us for his service to his country and to his family for doing exactly what any warrior should do. If we get permission from his widow and family, we will march to his grave, hold a ceremony, and march back to a rally point. Then we will go to a meeting hall, the VFW, Marine Corps Leagues, American Legion, or a local church, still to be determined, and we will have speeches and further fellowship in remembrance of him and all of our fallen. We will invite all who cherish our Constitution. We'll also issue a formal statement and press release condemning the policy which led to his death. It's more than that, folks. It's more than that. We need to expand a little bit. And I understand Oathkeepers. I understand that they're lawyers. I understand that they can't say what I can say. But I'm telling you that it needs to go further than that. It needs to go further than that. And I've got that up on my site, a platform for the presidency. We should be demanding that a candidate support. We can't win with the Republicans and Democrats. Two wings of the same bird, guys. It's two wings of the same bird. I've been in that. I know what it's like. I know that if they turn the cameras off of your candidate, you will never know your candidate was ever there. You won't know. And Dr. Richard Sauter said that it was really a non-announcement. He said, I am not running, let me make myself clear, I'm not running for President of the United States. I'm just am not doing it, though I am constitutionally fully qualified, and truth to tell would be much better for the country in many ways, on many levels, than the current thug occupant of the White House. But no, I really and truly do not aspire to be president of this godforsaken Kazakhstan masquerading as the U.S. I find him simply unable to be like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, John McCain, and go running after obscenely big bucks from the Fortune 500s and to go suck up to the neocon Zionist PACs like AIPAC, and to participate in those silly so-called presidential debates where a great many extremely important policy issues are rarely or never mentioned, where the level of debate is usually so jingoistic, shallow, and superficial that the level of discussion doesn't even begin to address fundamental, substantive issues of cause and effect on a whole broad range of pressing policies. It's obvious to anyone who cares to see this entire dictatorial electoral political system of this country, as presently constituted, arranged, rigged by the Democratic Republican parties, is so massively criminally corrupt that whoever attains the White House is more akin to a mafia don than to an enlightened, well-intentioned leader of a fair, free, and open republic. In the present system, the president is basically the boss of a national criminal syndicate which aspires to totalitarian global control. The attorney general, someone like Alberto Gonzales, for instance, is so mobbed up he's akin to a mafia consigliere. The IRS and federal courts and prison system are like the mob's muscle. The FBI and Homeland Security are hitmen, and the street corner punks and thugs carried out the violent wishes of whatever Ivy League thug or goon currently occupies the Oval Office. The federal government itself is sort of a vast, global, money laundering operation, spewing out paper money, fiat dollars, aka Federal Reserve notes, by the hundreds of billions and trillions, resembling nothing much more so much as a federal mafia or national criminal syndicate headquartered in the District of Columbia with a self-issued, self-validated legal license to maraud, ravage, plunder, and whoever, whenever, whatever, wherever it pleases. These thoughts are not unique to me. Many millions of people in this country and right around the world have come to similar realizations. Who wants to be a federal mafia don? Not me. But Laura Knight Judzik at Scott.net has tirelessly pointed out that the great harm the psychopaths and sociopaths have done throughout history, including the present day, how they insinuate themselves into positions of influence and power by hook and crook, by using guile, deceitfulness, mendacity, and outright wholesale theft and murder to clamber to the top of the heap in government, the military, high finance industry, marketing, journalism, academia, and religion, and where they wreak their terrible will and hatch and carry out their violent plots and schemes for exploitation, destruction, and global control and plunder. Now, the names and activities of these people are regularly splashed across the pages of daily newspaper, television broadcasts, and dip bloodily off the pages of our history books. What they do and who they are clearly apparent to one and all. They are a minority of the population, and yet they lord over the rest of humanity, who acquiesce in their power plays and exploitative policies, and even outright support them in their harebrained rantings and ravings and cockamamie schemes of national domination and world conquest. We keep tossing up these maniacs century after century, millennium after millennium. Alexander, the Caesars of Imperial Rome, Attila the Hun, Genghis Khan, Roman Catholic popes and inquisitors of the Middle Ages, Napoleon, Hitler, Stalin, Mao, Idi Amin, Pol Pot, George Bush, Dick Cheney. The karmic wheel of history keeps turning and churning, and we, the human species, keep spewing out these monsters out of our loins. They raise armies and set off to conquer and spoil, filling their torture dungeons and prisons with hapless victims of their iron rule, leaving behind a mountain corpses on the killing fields and the trail behind their ignominious wake. And alarmingly, these monsters never lack for legions of fawning licks people like Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Condoleezza Rice, John McCain, Barack Obama, John Ashcroft, Alberto Gonzales, General Petraeus, Ben Bernanke, and Michael Chertoff are just that sort of individuals. And there are literally swarms of these other lesser known who aid and abet these dark underlings in their myriad, ongoing, unconstitutional, and massively criminal endeavor. Okay. Hang on a minute. Okay.